Right before Christmas, these three beautiful university students followed their boyfriends home for just a small party. Little did they know that they will become a December sacrifice. This is a great lesson for the young girls of nowadays. Here is how it all began. It was a quiet morning as usual. Mama Ada woke up early, her heart heavy like a stone. She knelt down and began to pray. Her voice rose like the morning cock crow, calling her children to come join her for prayers. Ada, Chisom, come, let us pray. Ada, her beautiful daughter, who was in her final year in the university, knelt by her side. After the prayers, Mama Ada turned to her. Her voice was sharp and firm. Ada, listen to me. Don't follow anybody out today, no matter what, she said, her eyes as wide as the morning sky. But Mama, Ada began to speak, but Mama Ada cut her off. Don't argue, Ada. Listen to your mother. Do you hear me? Don't follow anybody out today, no matter the pleas or any promises. Just say no. Mama Ada repeated the warning again and again, her voice rising. Ada nodded. I won't, Mama. She promised, but her mind was elsewhere. Ada finished her chores and dressed for school. She came out and waved her mother goodbye. Her steps were quick and light, like a bird hopping to freedom. At school, Ada met her two best friends, Lucy and Bella. They stood in the campus, dressed to kill. Oh, Ada, you're looking so pretty as usual, Lucy said, laughing. Yes, fresh like a morning dew, Bella added, her smile as wide as the river. The three friends, laughing and talking, unaware that the day was going to take a drastic turn. Have you heard? Lucy said, her eyes sparkling. Classes has been cancelled until next year. Ah, so I just wasted my transport for nothing, Ada sighed, shaking her head. Don't mind them, Bella said with a grin. But don't worry, we won't let the day go to waste. Ada's brow furrowed. What do you mean? We're going to a party, Lucy announced, her hands clapping together with excitement. It's a small one, nothing serious. Come with us, Ada. Ada froze, her mother's warnings ringing in her ear. I can't, she said, shaking her head. I need to study. I can't just waste my time. Lucy rolled her eyes and Bella leaned closer, her voice soft and teasing. It's just a small party, Ada. No harm will come. Come on, girl. We'll just dance, eat, and come back. That's all. Don't be such a baby. No, I can't. Just... Ada started, but her friends cut her in. Ada. Are you now a grandmother? Leave a little girl, Lucy said, laughing. Okay, Ada finally agreed, her voice low, but only for a little while. Yes, that's my goal, Bella said joyfully. Not long after, the sound of a loud music filled the air. Dave, Betty's boyfriend, arrived in a shiny car, the music booming like thunder. Chris and Richie, his friends, were with him. Let's go, girls, Dave called out, his voice full of excitement. The girls climbed into the car, their laughter rising like birds in the sky. Ada sat quietly, her heart uneasy, but her friend's joy was infectious. The car sped off, the music loud and the mood high, as they headed to what they thought would be a night of fun. The house was full of lights, the music blasting like the beating drums during a festival. Laughter and cheers filled the air as people danced in pairs, their bodies swaying like trees in the wind. Ada, shy at first, soon found herself dancing with Rishi, while Lucy was paired with Chris and Bella with Dave. The friends laughed and danced, their joy bubbling over. After a while, Dave clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. Friends, it's time for a special treat. I have something planned just for us. he said with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. Excitement rippled through the group as Dave led them outside. The girls, giggling and curious, followed as he drove them to a nearby hotel. The table was already set with plates of steaming foods and bottles of drinks shining under the soft lights. "Eat, girls," Dave said, pulling out chairs for the girls. The girls ate and drank, their laughter echoing through the room like a melody of a happy song. Meanwhile, far away, Mama Ada sat in her market stall, her heart heavy. Ada should have been back by now. She tried to call her, but the phone rang and rang with no answer. Why won't she pick up? Mama Ada muttered, her palms sweaty as she dialed again, her spirits restless like the wind before a storm. Back at the hotel, Ada's phone buzzed on the table, unnoticed in the noise and excitement. She didn't hear it. The music was too loud and the night too enchanting. But suddenly, the enchantment began to fade. Ada's head felt heavy, like someone had poured sand into it. Her vision blurred and her legs wobbled. She grabbed the edge of a table, but the room spun faster and faster. Lucy slumped first, then Bella. Ada fought hard to stay awake, but her strength gave way and darkness swallowed her whole. When Ada woke up, she was no longer in the hotel. The air was cold and smelled of damp earth. She looked around and saw cracked walls and broken windows. They were in an uncompleted building, deep in the middle of nowhere. Her hands and legs were tied with stick ropes. She turned her head and saw Lucy and Bella beside her, also tied and unconscious. Fear gripped her heart like the claws of a wild beast. Where are we?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Wake up," Ada whispered urgently, nudging them with her elbow. Her voice trembled. The girls stared slowly, their eyes wide with fear as they took in their surroundings. In front of them stood Dave, Chris and Rishi, their cheerful faces replaced with cold, emotionless stares. Behind them, an old man emerged from the shadows. His presence filled the room like smoke. He held knives of different shapes and sizes, the blades gleaming in the dim lights. Beside him was an empty calabash. "Do not shout," Dave warned, his voice low and dangerous. Ada and her friends began to cry, their tears falling like rain as they begged for mercy. But the captors didn't flinch. The old man's eyes burned like fire as he stepped closer. The air thick with the promise of evil. The room was silent, except for the dripping sounds of water from the ceiling. The old man stood tall, his eyes sharp like a blade of a hunter's machete. His voice deep and strange, echoed in the darkness. "Pick a knife," he commanded, holding out the gleaming weapons. "Anyone who refuses will be flogged until their skin peels like yam." Ada and her friends cried harder, their sobs filling the empty space. "Please, we didn't do anything wrong. Don't kill us," Lucy begged, her voice trembling like a frightened bird. "Silence!" the old man barked, his voice like thunder. He motioned to Dave and his friends, who stepped forward with ropes in their hands. The girls screamed and struggled, but the ropes held them tightly. The old man brought out a small black bottle filled with dark foul-smell liquid. He poured it into a wooden cup and held it to Bella's lips. "Drink," he said, his voice calm but cold. Bella shook her head, her lips trembling. "No, please," she begged. But Dave grabbed her head, forcing the liquid into her mouth. She swallowed, her body shaking as tears streamed down her face. Moments later, Bella's body stiffened, her eyes wide with fear. She fell to the ground lifeless. The old man stepped forward, raising a sharp knife with one swift motion. He cut off her head. Blood poured into the calabash like river. Dave and his friends chanted strange words, their voices blending with the old man's. Ada screamed, her cries piercing through the air like a broken flute. "No!" she shouted, her body twisting in the ropes. "Next," the old man said, turning his eyes to Ada. They forced the wooden cup to her lips, but Ada fought with all her strength. The bitter liquid burned her throat, but as it reached her stomach, she vomited it out. They made her drink the liquid again and again, and each time she drinks it, her body rejected the poison. "She is strong," the old man muttered, his brows furrowing. He turned to Lucy, who was too weak to fight. She drank the potion with trembling hands, her body collapsing moments later. The old man wasted no time raising his hands and cutting off her head. Blood filled the calabash once more, the red liquid reflecting the flickering light of a candle. Ada's heart shattered like a broken pot. Her tears fell endlessly as she watched her friends die before her eyes. "Why did I come here?" she whispered to herself, her voice choked with regret. "I should have listened to my mother." "Force her again," the old man commanded. Dave and Chris held Ada down, pouring more of the liquid into her mouth. But no matter how much they gave her, she vomited it all out, her body refusing to give in. The old man finally stepped back, his face hard like rock. "She cannot be killed," he declared, his voice heavy with anger. "She'll be made useless instead. Let her live as a shell of herself." Ada's body was weak from the beating, her tears mixing with the dirt on her face. She sat in the darkness, her soul crushed, as the old man prepared the next stage of his ritual. The market was bustling with life, but Mama Ada couldn't shake off the unease in her chest. Her hands trembled as she arranged tomatoes on her wooden table. She wiped the sweat off her head and picked up her phone again. "Ada, pick up," she whispered, dialing her daughter's number for the 15th time. The phone didn't ring, it was switched off. Mama Ada's heart raced, beating like a drum in her chest. Her mind swelled with thoughts darker than a stormy night. "God, please protect my daughter," she prayed under her breath, her lips moving quickly. She turned around, but the market's noise drowned her thoughts. Dave and his friends followed the old man's final instruction. Ada, barely alive, was dumped out of the car to the roadside opposite the market. Her clothes were torn, her body bruised and her skin smeared with blood. She laid motionless on the floor as the car drove off at a very high speed. A market woman was the first to see her. She screamed, dropping the basket of tomatoes she was carrying. "Ah, somebody come and see, oh, they just dumped her." People gathered to the scene, their voices rising like a swarm of bees. "Who is she? What happened to her?" they shouted, their faces filled with fear. Mama Ada's stall was near the roadside. She heard the commotion and ran to the crowd, her feet moving faster. When she saw the girl lying there, her knees buckled, and she let out a wail that pierced the heavens. "Ada, my child, what happened to you?" Ada opened her eyes weakly. Her voice was faint like the whisper carried away by the wind. "Mama," she managed to say before collapsing into her mother's arms. Mama Ada's tears flowed freely as she cradled her daughter. Her once bright Ada was now a shadow of her own self, her body battered and her spirit broken. Without wasting a moment, she lifted her daughter, her strength fueled by desperation. Make way, she shouted, pushing through the crowd. She carried Ada straight to the church, her mind racing with prayers. "God, please, don't let my daughter die. Don't let this be the end," she whispered, her voice trembling as she approached the church. The pastor, a man of God, with eyes that seemed to see beyond the physical, welcomed her into the church. "Bring her in," he said, his tone calm but serious. Mama Ada lay Ada on the mat, her hands shaking as she explained what had happened. The pastor nodded, his eyes scanning the fragile girl before him. "This is not an ordinary battle," he said, his voice steady, "but with prayers she will live." Mama Ada knelt beside her daughter, her hand clasped tightly. "Please, do whatever it is to save my daughter, Pastor." Her voice broke with emotion as tears streamed down her face. Outside, the crowd murmured, the whispers spreading the story of the blooded girl found by the road. The market that was once alive with market and trade was now hushed with fear. Meanwhile, something even more terrible had happened somewhere else. After dumping Ada, the car roared down the dusty road, music blaring as Dave and his friends laughed out loud. "This December will be the best ever," Dave shouted, gripping the steering wheel with pride. Chris leaned back on the seat, a grin plastered on his face. "We will have everything we've ever dreamed of. Riches, power, everything, you name it," Richie added, nodding as he sipped from a bottle. But their celebration was short-lived. Just 3 minutes from the market, the car sped around a bend and out of nowhere, a massive truck loomed in front of them. The crash was sudden and brutal, like thunder striking the air. The car crumbled like paper, its music silenced forever. Rich died on the spot, his body lifeless in the wreckage. Dave screamed in pain as blood poured from his legs, now crushed beyond saving. One of his eyes was gone, leaving his face disfigured. Chris groaned, his arm severed, hanging limply as he cried out in agony. News of the accident spread through the town like wildfire. Whispers turned to shouts as people connected the dots. "It's them," someone said. "The boys that dumped that girl at the market. Their evil deeds have caught up with them." Another muttered, shaking his head. Back at the church, Ada lay on the mat, her breathing steady but weak. Mama Ada sat beside her daughter, watching as the pastor prayed and tended to her wounds. Slowly, Ada's eyes opened and she began to speak in a broken voice. "They killed them," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Lucy and Bella, they cut off their heads. I should have listened to you, Mama." Mama Ada's heart broke as she listened to her daughter's harrowing tale. The pastor placed his hands on Ada's forehead and spoke softly. "Her recovery would be slow, but there is nothing God cannot do for his children. Have faith in God, because he won't allow anything happen to her. The scars of the soul may never fade, but she is strong." The town buzzed with the story of the crash and Ada's survival. People spoke of divine justice, of how evil begets evil and can never escape punishment. The police came quickly, dragging Dave and Chris out of the wrecked car, broken and battered. They were taken to the hospital before being thrown into the prison. Their dreams of wealth had turned to ashes. Dave sat in his cell, his legs gone and his single eyes staring at the wall. Chris clutched the stamp where his arm used to be, his head bowed in regret. "Why did we do it?" Dave muttered. "We should have stayed poor." The once proud boys now face a life of misery, their greed having destroyed everything. At the church, Ada recovered slowly, unable to walk without help. The pastor told Mama Ada that Ada will live, but what she witnessed won't fade away so easily. Let her story be a lesson. Mama Ada wept, holding her daughter closely. "At least you are alive." The town learned from Ada's tragedy. Parents warned their children to listen and avoid temptations. Young children vowed to be more cautious. The December that began with joy ended in sorrow. Lucy and Bella were gone. Chris and Dave were ruined, and Ada would never be the same again. Her story became a warning that echoed through the town. Be careful who you follow home this December. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you have learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more enchanting tales just like this one. See you on the next one. Thank you and God bless. Bye.